Well, the geniuses on TV used to tell you that no illegal immigrant was actually illegal because no people are illegal. People can't be illegal. None of them are criminals. Well, it turns out, actually, there are some criminals. So there's a new approach. Criminals who do cross the border illegally, it's real, but we shouldn't punish them once they commit crimes here because that would be immoral. Senator Bob Menendez of New Jersey just said that basically out loud. He lamented that the Trump administration wants to treat alien drunk drivers like they've done something wrong.
The president's zero tolerance policy that has turned everyone, regardless of their record, into a criminal. For example, if you cross the border undocumented, he has now made you a criminal. If a person has a driving while under the influence violation, he is now making that, saying that that's a criminal.
Coming from a guy who just somehow beat an indictment, I'd love to know how that happened. Yeah, you try a DUI arrest and see if you keep your job, but then you're not an illegal alien, so you're out of luck, looks like. Meanwhile, Menendez's colleague and 2020 hopeful Cory Booker says that meat eating is bad. It's like, you can't make this up. They're trying to get Trump elected. And then went on to say that veganism basically should be compulsory. It's necessary to protect the environment. It's unbelievable. Lisa Boothe is a senior fellow at Independent Women's Voice, and she joins us tonight. Lisa,
hi, Tucker.
I mean, it looked just 2 months ago, Republicans, let's not lie about it, got creamed in the midterm elections. Democrats were ascendant, and then they started talking, and from what I could tell, Trump's numbers just kept going up. I mean, am I missing this? That's what happened, right?
I mean, I don't know if they're in cahoots with the president, because it seems like Democrats are doing everything they can to try to help President Trump get reelected. But look, listen to what Senator Bob Menendez said. I guess now he's saying that President Trump is trying to turn crossing the border illegally into a crime. Last time I checked, that was a crime. He's also saying that if an illegal immigrant gets a DUI, President Trump is trying to turn that into a crime. Last time I checked, getting a DUI, rather as an American or an illegal immigrant, is also a crime. So I guess the Democrat orthodoxy now is if you get into the country illegally, as long as you don't commit a violent offense, it's fine. I'm not really sure that's, I'm sorry?
But they're not extending these courtesies to American citizens.
Right.
So you misspeak in front of a congressional committee and they send 25 armed marshals to your house with automatic weapons and you face life in prison. I mean, why are they only liberalizing law enforcement for people from other countries?
Well, I think that's a good question for voters to ask Democrats, right? And I would also remind Senator Bob Menendez that the illegal immigrant that killed the legal immigrant, Ronald Singh, Corporal Ronald Singh, had 2 prior DUI arrests and had to come into this country illegally, obviously, which obviously not everybody that gets a DUI arrest is going to go on and commit some sort of heinous act. But point being is that he had illegal activity in his past and prior offenses here. And Tucker, this whole conversation with Senator Bob Menendez and Wolf comes down to the debate that recently happened over detention beds and Democrats wanting to cap the number of ICE detention beds.
No, I know.
And you've got people like the deputy ICE director, Matt Albence, saying, look, this is not a good idea because if we're capping the number
they don't
of...
care.
Right, they don't care.
Unfortunately, Lisa Booth, we're being told we're out of time, and we didn't even get to Cory Booker and his groovy veganism, but you're going to have to come back.
All right, a lot to talk about.
Man. Great to see you.
Thanks, Tucker.
In her brief time in the political limelight, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has said a lot of interesting stuff. Here's one thing she said.
An agency like ICE, which repeatedly and systematically violates human rights, does not deserve a dime.
That's right.
The world is going to end in 12 years if we don't address climate change. This is the war. This is our World War II. I think that there's a lot of people more concerned about being precisely, factually, and semantically correct than about being morally right.
So not only dumb and totally ignorant of everything, but utterly self-assured. If there were a clinical exam for self-esteem, she'd be in the 100th percentile. How do people get like that? Is it our education system? Is it high schools? Is it colleges? We wanted to talk to someone on the front lines of this who might know the answer. Nicholas Giordano is a professor of political science at Suffolk Community College, and he joins us tonight. Professor, thanks very much for coming on.
Hi, Tom.
So there's a certain recognizable syndrome here where the people who know the least are the most self-confident. Where does that come from?
Well, it's the lack of critical thinking that exists. It's the superficial arguments they make that are completely unrealistic. If you look at the Green New Deal, it's incomprehensible. And when you're looking at it, she says the world's going to end in 12 years. So if we go with this plan and have to rebuild every building, it took us 13 years just to build the Freedom Tower, for instance. 6 years to build the Tappan Zee Bridge. Imagine having to do every single building in the United States up to new codes. It's just not going to work. And it's that they don't ask deep questions. The arguments are, it sounds good, people will support it because it's government giving us stuff, and so it's okay. But there are real consequences when you actually talk like this, because there are people that are going to take it seriously. You have a number of presidential candidates that have agreed with her plan. And when you're looking at the plan itself, you can't understand anything in it. It would lead to millions of people being underemployed or unemployed. Maybe they could learn code, who knows. It would lead to unconstitutional state violations because state and local governments are in charge of building codes. And so my question to her would be, has she read the Constitution, knows about the 10th Amendment and state rights?
No, but you heard, wait, but I think it's a fundamental misunderstanding. You heard her say what matters is that she's a really good person and you're not. And so I'm thinking, as I'm watching this, remember that whole fad where we were supposed to give our kids self-esteem and that was the panacea? Did we create people like this when we did that?
Well, we did. Two things. The motto of the customer is always right created an entitlement culture. Yeah. And then our children are precious also created the entitlement culture where everyone gets the trophy. When you're looking at it and you're trying to challenge the minds of the youth, they try and push back because they don't want to critically analyze the information to see if it really works. Page 10 of her New Deal talks about creating public ownership and receiving a percentage of compensation for the public ownership. Well, that's socialism. That's the very definition of socialism, and nobody's called her out on it in a sense. And it didn't work out so well for Venezuela. So is it really going to work out well for us?
No, not, I mean, I don't know. It's been great for, I guess, weight loss in Venezuela. They're starving.
They are,
eating zoo animals. No,
and that's part of the problem. There's no critical thinking. And not only do you have that part, you have even more concerning, it talks about persons of the United States. It doesn't say U.S. citizens or U.S. persons, which is the definition of citizen and legal residence.
No, you're right.
So that raises the question.
Anyone who shows up gets to take your stuff. I mean, you can see where this is going. Professor, we're out of time, unfortunately. I commend you for having the patience to try and train a more impressive next generation of critical thinkers. Thank you for that.
No problem. Enjoy the night.